able to share this information with more parents. There's certainly probably parents that can't join us tonight. So we want to make sure that we give lots of you a chance to listen in on our presentation. I'll pause just momentarily, let everyone jump in to get comfortable, and then we'll get started in just a moment. Again, we are recording tonight's session, so when that box pops open, if you could please give our approval to record this session, that would be great. And keep in mind that we do have all of our guests joining us tonight muted, and you will appear off camera. Looks like we have most of our guests joining us already. So again, I want to say welcome to Ohio State Newark. My name is Diane Canny. I'm the Director of Enrollment. Thank you so much for spending the next hour or so with us. We'll try very, very hard to keep it within 60 minutes, but a lot of that really depends on you and how many questions you have for us. I will also admit, really, really grateful for all of the questions that you asked us and that you wanted to hear more about when you registered for this event. But I'm also going to tell you that we probably can't answer every question that you have tonight. We did make some adjustments to the presentation to hopefully answer some of the questions that many of you have about our on-campus housing options. And so we'll do our very best, but if and when we don't get to your questions, please know that you can call us tomorrow or any day of the week. Monday through Friday, we are available for your questions, or you can also email us. Now, a couple housekeeping items about this evening. I'm not the only person here from Ohio State Newark. I have some colleagues behind the scenes ready to answer your questions. Joining us tonight is Wes Grunden, Pam Allen, and also Sherry Schneider. And they're all behind the scenes. They will be answering your questions as you ask them in the Q&A button, or the Q&A function that you should find at the bottom of your screen. All you have to do is click on that button, ask us a question, and we will do our very best to answer it promptly. Looking at my notes here, this presentation, as I mentioned, should be about, I'm gonna talk through a presentation for about 30 or 35 minutes, and then we hope that we'll open it up for even more questions and certainly answer some of the most popular questions live tonight. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I've got a lot of things to share with you, a lot of great information to share with you. So the first thing we want to do is make you aware that we believe at The Ohio State University that it is important that every member of our community knows they are safe, respected, and valued. With the current environment in society, we want to kick off our time together with this statement from the university, and I'll read it to you. As members of The Ohio State University, we condemn anti-Black racism and racism in all of its forms. And we are committed to engaging, interrupting, and dismantling institutionalized racist structures. Ohio State's mission to prepare students to be leaders and engaged citizens calls us to demand and support change. And you can learn more about the important work being done at Ohio State at that at that website address. So tonight's agenda, it is a full one. We're going to talk through Buckeye terminology, things that perhaps some words that we toss around that you and your student may not be familiar with. I'll talk you through some of those challenges. Scholarship opportunities. A lot of you want to know about scholarships. We're going to spend quite a bit of time tonight about scholarships. Many of you asked about what are the next steps for enrolling my son or daughter. And we're going to talk through that. Housing options, lots of questions about housing, lots of questions about deadlines. We've got all those bookmarked for you. And then a lot of you simply want to know, how does my son or daughter start at Ohio State Newark, and how do they finish their degree in Columbus? A lot of our students do just that, and I'm going to talk you through that process. And then we'll talk more, kind of wrap up the evening by sharing some upcoming events that we have and important links. So let's jump in and get started. Buckeye terminology. This is a fun one. And I have to look at my notes sometimes because there's a lot to learn, and I don't want to get this wrong for any of you. So when we talk about Buckeye Link, I'm actually going to take you through Buckeye Link later on to get to Scholarship Universe, which is something you want to learn more about tonight. Buckeye Link is going to be available to your student once they are admitted to the university. Okay. Now, Buckeye Mail is something that I hope all of your students have already activated, and I hope they check it regularly, because once they are admitted to the university, we will only send official university communication to their Buckeye email account. So if they are unsure about how to activate it, if they are unsure whether or not they've activated it, it's time to get on that. And I'll walk you through a little bit of that a little bit later. Now, the Applicant Center versus Carmen. The Applicant Center is basically where you're going to go to check your application status until your son or daughter is admitted and they move through the enrollment process. That's simply the Application Center, or the Applicant Center is appstatus.osu.edu. Simple as that. And they can check on, where am I in the process? Am I missing any documentation for my application? Carmen is something you're going to learn a lot more about. It's going to come later in your process. For instance, you're really not going to hear much about Carmen until your son or daughter registers for orientation. And then they're going to be assigned modules to complete before their orientation date in Carmen. So it's basically used after they pay their acceptance fee and after they register for orientation. And there's a lot to do. And certainly when they become an Ohio State student, it becomes more relevant in a nice platform to communicate with their faculty and such. The student's to-do list is something else you want to pay very close attention to. That you will also find in Buckeye Link. That's going to list things like this financial responsibility statement that I have here. That is a document that your student will need to complete every semester prior to selecting courses for the next semester. If they don't complete it, it will actually hold them up. They will not be able to schedule classes until they commit to basically paying back any funds the university is providing them. It's as simple, that financial responsibility statement, I think requires students to complete or check 4 boxes. That's it. It's very simple, but it can easily be overlooked. The application fee versus the acceptance fee. The application fee, your son or daughter paid at the moment they submitted their application for admission. The acceptance fee is a $100 fee that you will pay once you know you want to enroll at Ohio State Newark. Now, one thing I want to point out here, and I'm going to point it out later, is you do not need to pay the acceptance fee to get into our housing lottery. Okay, you do not need to pay that fee before you know whether or not you have campus housing. That is not a requirement to enter our housing lottery in mid-April. Okay, so OSU ID versus name.number. Again, something else we like to throw around these acronyms at Ohio State. Your OSU ID is going to be a 9-digit number, and it's going to start with the number 5. Your name.number is simply your student's last name, and it's assigned to them, I believe, after they become admitted. And if they're not sure where it is, it's typically written on all communications written to that student. And for instance, my name.number is Canny.24. It's as simple as that. That is their name.number. Admissions counselor versus advisor. Yes, very important. Your admissions counselor is a member of my team, and they are here to assist you until basically you attend an orientation. And then at orientation, you meet your academic advisor, and that individual is going to help you schedule courses. That's when we kind of turn you over to the academic advisor, and they help you not only select courses at Ohio State, but they're going to help you with that campus change process. They're going to help you start at Ohio State Newark and finish your degree on the Columbus campus, should you decide to do so. The Buckeye Opportunity Program is something that I hope all of you invest time in learning more about, because if you qualify, if you and your family qualify for the federal Pell Grant, that means that Ohio State will make sure that your son or daughter can attend Ohio State, any campus, and pay nothing. Now, there are some other strict requirements of your student. So it's not just like, oh my goodness, oh, I know we have the federal Pell Grant, we must qualify for this. Not quite that easy. There's a few other things to learn about that Buckeye Opportunity Program, but I wanted to mention it here to kind of plant that seed with you parents so that you learn more about the Buckeye Opportunity Program. Costs in applying for scholarships. This was a hot topic. A lot of you want to know a little bit more about the cost and scholarships. So you're going to see right away here that the Newark campus is less expensive than the Columbus campus. But I caution you, it's not because there's any less value on our campus. This is because when these regional campuses were put into place many years ago by one of our governors, he said, I want them to be accessible and I want them to be affordable. And we are both. And we continue to be one of the best values in the state of Ohio. So this could also look very confusing to a lot of you because we don't list our room and board. So what does room and board really cost? Well, because we only have space on campus for 310 students. Let me repeat that. We have space on campus for 310 students, and we are the largest of the regional campuses at an enrollment of about 2,800 students. So because of that, a lot of our students live off campus in apartments or they commute from home. So their room and board really varies depending on their housing situation. You can always choose to eat on campus, regardless of where you live. And that simply is as easy as putting money or putting funding onto your Buckeye ID. So it's very easy to dine on our campus or to visit friends on the Columbus campus and swipe in and use your Buckeye ID. Same Buckeye ID that's carried across any campus of the Ohio State University is what your son or daughter will carry. Scholarship types. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking you through these. The merit-based scholarships are based upon your student's academic record, GPA, rank in class, and course curriculum. Okay, there is nothing your son or daughter needs to do to qualify that is based upon their application for admission. We do the hard work behind the scenes to identify the finalists for those merit-based scholarships, and then we will notify your student that they are selected as a finalist, and we will ask them at that time to compete by writing an essay for us. And that's more to come on that in the next month or so. But those merit-based awards have just increased this year. They are not now $4,000. That's almost half of our tuition. So a great opportunity for your student. The special or endowed scholarships by the Newark campus, I'm going to show you some of those this evening and talk more about those. Those deadlines are March the 15th. I will also show you scholarships that are awarded by the Columbus campus, and I'll show you Scholarship Universe. That's how students are selected by those or for those scholarships by utilizing what's called Scholarship Universe. That is an Ohio State only search tool for scholarships. And external scholarships, of course, that's where your hard work comes into play. To encourage your student to reach out and to know what's available in your immediate community and also nationally. There are lots of scholarships for students out there. So your scholarship to-do list looks like this. Hopefully most of you have already submitted that FAFSA. The FAFSA priority deadline for Ohio State was February the 1st. Now, don't stress out. Don't hit the panic button on me if you haven't submitted the FAFSA. Okay, I simply encourage you to do so as quickly as possible. So submit that FAFSA. Review Scholarship Universe at buckeyelink.osu.edu. Again, I'm going to take you through that here in just a minute. And then we're also going to review the Ohio State Newark scholarships as well. And they are found at go.osu.edu/Newark scholarships. I'm going to pause just a minute there so you can jot down those links in case you want to. But of course, for Scholarship Universe, you're going to look at buckeyelink.osu.edu. And for Ohio State Newark scholarships, go.osu.edu and then /Newark scholarships. So now give me just a minute. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can navigate over to Scholarship Universe for you. This is what Scholarship Universe looks like. Now, to get there, all I did was I went to buckeyelink.osu.edu. If you haven't been on Buckeye Link, now I'm talking to you students, this is what it's going to look like. This is what my page looks like. It's going to look a little bit different to your student because they're not going to have access to all of these things. But as you can see by perusing this list, when your student becomes a student at The Ohio State University, they're going to have access to some of these things like campus change, like financial aid, payments and refunds, tuition and fees. They're going to be able to look at their application status. They're going to, again, be able to, if you look at where I'm pointing right now and circling Scholarship Universe, this is where your student is going to go, Scholarship Universe. So I've already clicked through that, and here is where I've landed. You can see it has my name right here. And thus far, I have been matched with 2 scholarships. How did that happen? Well, just a moment ago, I answered simply 2 questions about myself. I answered what my intended major would be. I just picked one from the list. And I provided my GPA, which I listed as a 3.5. When I did that, this great technology said, well, Diane, based upon those 2 questions you've answered, you qualify now for 2 scholarships. One more thing I want you to look at is the deadlines for these scholarships through Ohio State have a variety of deadlines. The deadline for the 2 that I qualify for are actually tomorrow. So again, I think it is very, very important for your students to get on to Scholarship Universe and start perusing these. Now, the great thing about Scholarship Universe is you're also going to find that not only do I qualify for 2 scholarships at The Ohio State University, I qualify right below that. I qualify for 15 outside scholarships. Those might be from a local YMCA, the Lions Club, the Rotary, you name it. But again, all of these you'll be able to walk right through this, and your student will know exactly which ones to submit an application for. The other thing to remind you is don't just answer 2 questions. There are a whole slew of questions that your student should answer, and that will help narrow down the pool of scholarships that your student will qualify for. You can see in this box right here, there are 6,000 scholarships available. 6,000 scholarships that are just waiting for your student to submit an application for. So Scholarship Universe, put that on a to-do list, and I would do so as quickly and as efficiently as I could. Now, I'm going to pause there. I'm going to unshare my screen. I'm going to share again, and I'm going to take you to now the Newark campus scholarships. Again, you would navigate to this by going to go.osu.edu/Newark scholarships. What you're going to find on our page is that there are over 50 scholarships. The list is right here. I'm not going to click on it, but there's over 50 scholarships, and only about 15 to 20 that require a separate application by your student. Now, your student won't qualify for all 15. I can assure you of that. Some require them to live in Licking County. Some require a parent to be working at AEP. I am going to point you to one that I definitely want you to have your student apply for, because everyone qualifies. It is the we shorten it, we call it the Binkovitz Scholarship. It is simply, it's as simple as this. Here's the application. It's not going to take your student a long time. However, it requires your student to write an essay on the Holocaust. That's it. Every student who's admitted to Ohio State Newark qualifies for this scholarship. And I'm also going to tell you, based upon history, we do not receive a lot of applications for scholarships. It's truly unfortunate. but it's also a great opportunity for you and for your students, hopefully to jump onto this opportunity. I think it's worth your time. It's worth your students' time. So that's a little bit about the Newark scholarships. Again, they're all listed here. You certainly should read through them, and then you can click on each application. The deadline for the Newark scholarships is March the 15th. So you do have a little bit of time. You have about a month to jump on that. Okay, that is enough about scholarships. I hope that was helpful. I felt like it was a little bit of a tutorial, but it was well worth the time tonight. Okay, the scholarship timeline, just going to review this. February 1st, okay. We've already mentioned that was Ohio State's priority deadline. March 15th is when those Ohio State Newark scholarships are due, and those are due to the financial aid office. That is printed on every application that your student would complete. And of course, right now is the best time to complete that Scholarship Universe application. If you have questions about scholarships or financial assistance, it is best to connect with one of the professionals in our financial aid office. Sometimes the admissions staff can help you with those questions, but more often than not, they should be answered by a member of our financial aid team. You can reach them at 740-366-9435 or at that email address listed on the screen. So let's talk through the more next steps for enrollment. We've kind of checked scholarships off the list. Here are your priorities. You've already heard a couple of these already. Make sure that your student has activated and is regularly checking their Buckeye mail. I can't emphasize that enough. They have to go to buckeyemail.osu.edu to check their mail. They should not have that mail forwarded to Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo or any other address, a school address, because it's oftentimes that our emails will show up in their spam and they won't see them. Submit the FAFSA, pay that $100 acceptance fee when your student is ready to become a Buckeye at Ohio State Newark. You certainly want to make sure that you pay that by May the 1st, because there certainly are perks to doing so, including priority, I shouldn't say priority deadline, but your student will qualify for football tickets if they pay their acceptance fee by May the 1st. And they will also be kind of the first ones to receive the invitation to summer orientation. That may not sound like a big deal, but it is. If you attend orientation on our campus in June versus July, you're going to find there are a lot more courses available to your son or daughter at that time versus waiting for later in the summer. Of course, complete those important to-do list items that your student will find. Register for orientation. That will happen after May the 1st. So we wait about typically about the 6th or 7th of May to begin sending out those registration emails for orientation. And then of course, over the course of the summer and after your student graduates from high school, he or she will need to submit their final high school transcript. Let's talk a little bit about housing. This was a hot topic for a lot of you. Of course, I mentioned earlier, we have space for 310 students on our campus. We have both traditional and on-campus housing options available. I'll talk you through what I mean by that. But in order for your student to become eligible for our housing lottery in mid-April, they must be admitted to Ohio State Newark by mid-April, and they must complete the housing application, turn that back into university housing, pay the $350 housing deposit, of which $300 is actually refundable if they don't get campus housing, and then realize that I'm going to encourage all of you to have an option B, because with only space for 310 students, we typically have about 500 applications for on-campus housing. So it's very popular with students. So off-campus housing options in and around the city of Newark are very, very popular. Keep in mind, you do not need to pay the $100 acceptance fee before your son or daughter is eligible for that housing lottery. You do not need to pay that fee. I know that is confusing because the Columbus campus requires students to do that for the Columbus campus. But that rule is in place only for Columbus students and not for Newark campus students. Here is McConnell Hall. This is what I mean by a traditional double room or traditional housing on campus. It is a room where you sleep and you study and you might eat in there and you share it with one other roommate. And then you have the communal bathrooms and showers down the hall. McConnell Hall is a beautiful space on campus. It's fairly new. It opened about 3 years ago on our campus. It has space for 120 students. It also has a beautiful 300-person multi-purpose room, a Block O fire pit out front, and a sand volleyball court on the opposite side. The apartments on campus are wonderful. Actually, they're quite nice for being on-campus college apartments. You will find that 4 to 6 students will reside in each apartment on our campus, and you would share a room, or your student would share a room with one other person. And of course, then everyone in that space would share the bathroom, the shower, the living room, and quite a nice kitchen area here shown in this photo. The apartments have space for 190 students on our campus. Let's talk a little bit about important deadlines. There are a lot of them. I'm going to start with the March 15th because that is coming up quickly. That is Ohio State Newark's scholarship deadline. If you haven't learned a lot about the learning communities, I certainly want you to invest time in learning about our learning communities because I consider it a win-win for your student. It is something they should do. On-campus housing, of course, that deadline, we like to call it a deadline, but we basically say mid-April because the housing lottery then happens later in April, and your student will know whether or not they have campus housing before May 1st. And honors and Lefevre fellows. So the honors program is for your student who might want a little bit more challenge in the classroom. And Lefevre fellows are for those students who really have a keen interest and awareness in service learning. And so those programs have been combined for this year. The benefit of that is that your student would receive a $750 scholarship per semester for being a member of the Honors and Lefevre Fellows program in the coming year. So national reply date of May the 1st. Yeah, that qualifies your son or daughter for the football tickets that I mentioned, and also makes sure that they are eligible for the first invitations going out to summer orientation so that they can hopefully join us in June for an orientation. And then after May the 1st, placement testing and orientation begin. That will happen again through your Buckeye mail. All of these important information, the housing lottery, the invitation to join a learning community, the invitation to apply for the Honors and Lefevre Fellows program, all of that information is sent to your students' Buckeye mail. Financial aid will come out in a few short weeks in late February, early March. That also, your student will get an alert in their Buckeye mail that it is ready for them to view. So again, I cannot emphasize enough tonight the importance of activating and reading their Buckeye mail on a daily basis. Let's talk a little bit about how does your son or daughter start on Ohio State Newark's campus and then transition? Yeah, it's not a transfer. It is a transition to the Columbus campus. It's easy. Okay, the student would complete 30 credit hours on our campus after high school graduation. So regardless of how many credits they might bring with them based upon CCP or AP credits, that doesn't matter. They must complete 30 credit hours after high school graduation in order to be eligible. And they must maintain a 2.0 GPA. That's typically not difficult, and that's the minimum. They don't have to qualify for their college entrance in Columbus. That's not part of the deal here. They just must minimally have a 2.0 GPA. Just keep in mind, if your student is interested in gaining acceptance to a competitive program in Columbus, let's say engineering or nursing, they can't simply qualify with a 2.0 GPA. They can campus change and go to Columbus with that 2.0, but they will not gain admission to that college based upon how they performed on our campus. So doing the best work they can is very, very important. Now, I want to stop here and say to your student and to you, I know you have choices. I know that there are other universities and colleges out there that you might think about enrolling at and then transferring to the Columbus campus. A couple things for you to keep in mind if you are considering that pathway. Number one, your student is then considered a transfer student. Once they enroll at another college or university, they are a transfer student. Number two, they will be right back into that competitive admissions process as a transfer student. If they start at Ohio State-Newark, they are a Buckeye from day one. No one can take that away from them. And we will guarantee your student a seat on the Columbus campus after they complete those 30 credit hours at a minimum GPA of 2.0. It's as easy as that. And all of their credits and their grade point average from our campus, because we're part of Ohio State, will go right with them to Columbus. Guess what? If they come to Ohio State as a transfer student, they'll come in and they'll have credits, of course, from that other college or university, but they'll start at Ohio State with a GPA of 0. That's a big deal to a lot of students. You put in a lot of hard work your freshman year. We want you to start at Ohio State-Newark and carry through that tradition and carry through it and graduate a Buckeye in Columbus. Yes, you will have the same degree, the same diploma. It will be from The Ohio State University. And guess what? It's not going to say she started on the Ohio State-Newark campus. No one cares. No one cares. In fact, a third of all freshmen start on a regional campus. We enroll about 1,400 to 1,500 new first-year students merely on our campus, on the Newark campus, every year. And so our students are doing just fine in transitioning to Columbus and then grabbing that degree. So more upcoming events. Yes, we have a Buckeye Visit Day on Thursday, March the 4th. You can certainly learn a lot more about us by joining us for one of those events. These campus partner events are very specific. So a week from tonight, we have the scholarship program or the scholarship event. Faith Phillips, Director of Financial Aid, will be joining me and we will talk through scholarships. We'll probably take a deep dive like we did tonight. You're welcome to join us for that event. Student Success is for those parents who have students who might need tutoring. They might need to learn a little bit more about the Math Learning Center or the Writer's Studio or Disability Services, things like that. You want to come to that Student Success event. Each of these begin at 6:30 and they last for less than an hour. And of course, I know a lot of you had housing questions. So again, if you want to take a deeper dive into housing, join us on Thursday, March the 11th. And to learn more about learning communities, if you want to wait this long, you can join us later in March for that event. And for those of you who have been admitted to Ohio State-Newark, you will be learning more about our future Buckeye Day. It's pretty special. You must be admitted to attend that day, and we'll send you an invitation later. But basically, we take our Buckeye Visit Days and we move them around a little bit. We bring in some special guest speakers. Some special people will be sending messages to you. It'll be a nice event, and that's going to start a little bit earlier at 4:30 on Thursday, April the 22nd. Yes, you can view all of these events at go.osu.edu/visit Newark. There's a complete list, and you can register from that page. And there's even more. I haven't listed all of them here, but I've listed the majority of them coming up. Important links. Yes, there are a lot of important links for you and your students, depending upon where they are in the process. For applicants, of course, it's just for applicants. It's that page. For admitted students, please bookmark this. We update it regularly. Anything that we're sending out to you, anything that appeared in your admit packet, and if you haven't received your admit packet from Ohio State-Newark, it'll be coming your way if you're an admitted student. But anything that we provide you, you're going to find great resources on that admitted student page. For parents, we do have a parent corner exclusively for parents on our website. And of course, there we list the Visit Campus link as well. And we do have a virtual tour. If you're not familiar with Ohio State-Newark, I definitely encourage you to visit that link and click on the virtual tour and take a look around our beautiful campus. If you have questions From an admissions point of view and enrollment point of view, you certainly want to stop in and ask us. We are available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. You can call us, you can email us. We are answering emails very quickly and certainly picking up your calls, usually when you call us. At the very same time, you're getting an answer to your most important questions. And with that, I will ask Wes Grundon to come on. He is our Assistant Director of Admissions. And I'll ask Wes if there are any questions, Wes, that you would like to answer live, or any questions that you would like to toss my direction.
Yes, thank you, Diane. Absolutely. We had some good questions that came in this evening, and as we would expect, it was centered around scholarships and around housing. And there were a few questions I figured I would just address so that everyone can hear them. The first, just to reiterate, the housing application for that housing lottery, it will be due in mid-April. And of course, at the end of April is when we will be doing that lottery. So you will know where you stand prior to that May 1 deadline. So again, students, as you heard Diane say, keep an eye on that email. That information should be going out to you once you're admitted, and then you can get that filled out with the application, the $350 deposit, get that in by mid-April. We did have another question, a very good question. When students transition to the Columbus campus after their freshman year, are they expected to live in housing on the Columbus campus? The short answer is yes. The Columbus campus, they do have a policy that once a student graduates high school, they have to live in university housing for the first 2 years. Now, being on the Newark campus, you will fulfill one of those years. The good thing is that you don't have to be in our housing. You could commute, you can be in our housing, you can be in an apartment on campus, you can be living at home with your parents eating all their food. That does not matter in our eyes. That counts as 1 year. So when you transition for your sophomore year, you would be expected to live on campus. With the exception, if you do live in the Columbus area, you do have the option to petition that and potentially live at home and commute. And then lastly, we did get a question pertaining to housing. If you are living on campus, is there a shuttle bus or a service that is run by the university that takes students to and from the Newark campus into Columbus? Unfortunately, we don't have an Ohio State sponsored shuttle service. The large part of that is because much of our students, they do have cars, they are commuting. But I do know that getting into Columbus, it is, as Diane said, a very short ride. I know that students that may not have had a car, some of those actually worked in our office, and they always talked about carpooling with friends and getting back into the Columbus campus. Now we do have some busing that stops by our campus. We do have the Go bus that goes through, and you're welcome to check that out on their website. And then lastly, we did have a good question about scholarships, and parents were wondering, do students have to be admitted to be considered for those scholarships? And for our merit scholarships, Scholarship Universe, our additional scholarships, we do ask that you are admitted, and we ask that you also submit that FAFSA because there are some scholarships pertaining to financial need. That was the bulk of a lot of the questions that we had. But Diane, I did want to throw one your way. And I know you threw a lot of information out to our parents out there. Some of the students are tuned in as well. What would you say is some of the most important things these students can be doing right now?
That's a great question, Wes. And I would say to parents, I'm sure you're on here tonight not only to learn more about Ohio State Newark, but also to learn how you can best support your student. And my advice is, and I've said this a couple times tonight, I don't think you'll be surprised to hear me say, make sure they've activated and checked their Buckeye mail. I think that is the most important thing. And secondly, check us out. Ask your neighbors. You know, I know we're in this quarantine situation. We're in a very unique situation, and so is your student. But, you know, text friends and ask them, hey, what do you know about Ohio State Newark? Or attend more of our events. I'll even put up the slide again so you can look at, you know, when do they have events coming up? Get to know us. I think you'll find there are a lot of great opportunities for your student at Ohio State Newark. And I fully expect by the time they start in for our autumn semester, that things on campus are going to look very different. Not only are we going to be opening a brand new science building that I did not even mention tonight, but I think that we're going to be in a better situation in terms of this pandemic. I fully expect there'll be more classes in person. And I think campus will begin to get back to our new normal, whatever that might look like. So one other thing that I thought of, Wes, as you were talking about, and I'm not sure that I said this earlier, and it's important, students and parents, is each campus of The Ohio State University has our own scholarships. So they are campus specific. So let's say that you or your student has been admitted to another regional campus of The Ohio State University, and he or she might have a scholarship from this campus. If and when they campus change to our campus, that scholarship does not follow them. Likewise, if you receive a scholarship from Ohio State Newark and you enroll on our campus, and then you campus change to Columbus, keep in mind that your scholarship will not follow you. You'll be competing for other scholarships on the Columbus campus at that time. Anything else, Wes?
Yes, and thank you for that, Diane. And we did have a slew of questions that came in just here towards the end, and I did want to answer a few of those live. I did get a question asking about how the roommates are determined for the housing lottery. And so I don't know, Diane, if you would want to take that and talk about that process as it relates to the housing lottery, because obviously first the student will have to get selected for the lottery, but then the next step is how do they figure out who they're going to be rooming with?
Sure. Great question. Roommates, and if, let's say, I'm going to do a hypothetical situation here. So your student has been selected through the housing lottery, and they have a friend who also were selected in the housing lottery. If they're selected, both selected, then they will match those students together. Now, if your student applies for housing and a friend applies for housing and both of them are not selected through the lottery for campus housing, one may get campus housing and the other one will not. And then those simply they're matched by interest. So when you submit the housing application, you're answering some questions about yourself. Talking to the students now, you're answering, are you a night owl or are you an early bird? Do you like to be really clean and keep up your room, or are you really messy? You want to answer those questions honestly. I'm speaking from my heart right now. You need to answer those honestly so that you get matched, hopefully, with someone who's a great roommate, and we hope a lifelong friend, because that does happen. Now, the other thing that you can do, students, if you're not selected for campus housing, you can use our roommate finder. Our roommate finder is a service that we provide, and it'll help you just be connected with someone, again, that shares your interest. And then potentially you and that person or persons can live in an apartment off campus. So we do have some options there, of course, through the housing lottery, making sure that each student's name is on each other's application so that if you're both selected, you'll be paired together in a room. And of course, using our roommate finder selection process.
Excellent. Thank you, Diane. And we also had two questions come in about parking on campus. And the first question, I can answer it pretty simply. They asked, is there adequate parking for campus? And we do have a lot of parking on our campus. And in fact, we're even talking about in the future adding more and, restructuring our parking lots to even make sure there's even greater space. But I can tell you that since we are largely in part a school where we have students coming and driving cars, we do have the space for that. Now, the follow-up question that I also received was about the parking pass and how that looks. We do ask that students register their car and get a parking pass on campus. Don't worry, it is free. We just want to make sure for safety precautions that we have your car. We know it's our students parking in our lots. Now, unfortunately, while that parking pass is free and works on our campus, that does not give you the same privileges on the Columbus campus. If any of you have friends or family that have been to the Columbus campus, you might hear that if they are commuting, they have to pay for a parking pass on campus. So that parking pass that you have at Newark does not translate over to the Columbus campus. And I also had a question about our events. And I know you can see the slide up there. And the campus partner events, they will be online. Now, I know, like a lot of you, we are hoping to eventually soon get back on campus so that we can show you what that looks like. Of course, we are still waiting to see how things unfold with the COVID vaccine coming out. We are waiting on not only our university leadership, but state leadership as well. And so it is something we remain hopeful. And we will, once we get the go ahead, we will we will try and make sure we can get as many students on campus as possible in a safe environment and in a safe way. But the campus partner events, and for that matter, the ones that we're discussing on this slide, they are going to be all virtual. And with that, I think that was actually all of the questions. So back over to you, Diane.
Great. Well, I'll just wrap up since there were questions about events and potential visits to campus. I will just reiterate what Wes just shared, parents, that we are very hopeful that we can get back to campus in some regard this spring. And trust me, when we can have students on campus, you'll be the first to know. We are all eager to show you our beautiful campus. It is about 200 plus acres. You're welcome to drive out to campus. No one is keeping you from driving around campus. Of course, you may not want to this week. It's a little snowy and icy, but we certainly encourage you to visit campus and do so in a safe way, of course, following the expectations of masks and such. But we definitely hope that we'll be back on campus later this spring. And again, if and when we are able to do that, we will do so in a very safe way, and you'll be the first to know. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for your time tonight. Join us again, please. There are lots of events, and yes, we do record all of our events, and they will be on the website. If you can't catch us live, you can always follow up to watch the recording later. I want to thank you again for your time tonight, and as always, go Bucks. Good night.